Hello again, and thanks very much for joining us. I'm Michael Nath. President Muhammadu Buhari has signed the Nigeria Startup Bill into law. The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Sir Pantami, announced this on Wednesday after a meeting with the President at Aso Villa. He disclosed that the Startup Bill, passed on July 20, 2022, was initiated by the executive arm and seeks to create an enabling environment for tech-based startups in Nigeria. Pantami further revealed that the law, which holds huge benefits for the Nigerian economy, adopted an approach to allow startups to identify business challenges and voice them out. Based on the provisions of the law, the federal government plans to set up a 10 billion naira fund for startups in the country. The information and communications technology sector has so far contributed 18.42% in 2022. Now, amid Nigeria's tight fiscal space, the federal government has recorded a deficit of 5.33 trillion naira between January and August 2022, which is 430.82 billion naira above the pro-rata level. Now, the government spent 9.56 trillion naira from January to August 2022 out of 11.55 trillion naira pro-rata expenditure projected for the period. Of the 9.56 trillion naira spent in 8 months, 3.52 trillion naira was expended on debt service, while 2.829 trillion naira was used for personnel costs and pensions. The total expenditure projected for the whole of 2022 is 17.32 trillion naira. Now, speaking during the ministerial presentation of the 2023 budget on Wednesday in Abuja, Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, said the federal government's retained revenue was 4.23 trillion naira as of August 2022, representing 64% of the pro-rata target of 6.65 trillion naira. She disclosed that the federal government's share of oil revenues in 2022 was 395.06 billion naira, representing 27.1% performance, while non-oil tax revenues totaled 1,549.91 trillion naira, indicating 102.9% performance. Ahmed further revealed that the company's income tax and the value-added tax collections this year totaled 826.27 billion naira and 210.36 billion naira, respectively, representing 136.3% and 99.6% of their respective targets. Customs collections, comprising import and excise duties, fees, and Federation account special levies, fell short of their target by 102.51 billion naira. Nigeria's biggest investor and manufacturer, President and Chief Executive of DANGOTE Group, Alhaji ALIKO Dangote, has provided a 10-year growth plan for the manufacturing sector in the country. Aiboje Ikoria reports that Dangote, in a stakeholders meeting, said industrialization drives the development of any country.
And Chief Executive Dangote Group, Alhaji ALIKO Dangote, extolling the industrial sector in the country, said no nation of the world can be developed without proper planning and conscious government policies to drive industrialization.
They need to formulate a law by the National Assembly and say that yes, anybody that is seen selling a foreign textile must go to prison maybe 3 years with no option of fine. Because Nigeria, if you say there's option of fine, they will go through the court and they will get a fine. But do we have a chance? Yes, we do. What is stopping us from, is implementation of government policy. It's the political will to make sure that yes, we implement those policies, no matter who is going to be upset with us. So I'm sure the government will do that, because the president has already declared that in 10 years he wants to pull 100 million people out of poverty. And the only way to do it, or to start, is through the textile industry.
Dangote, after several analyses of the failure of economy in the country, says the constant power failure and other factors like funding keys industrialization.
We have the resources. A lot of people who are doing let me give an example. Go to Atlanta, for example. most of their medical doctors, the top key guys, are all Nigerians. So why are we allowing them to go? We should develop something here that can actually retain people here. I mean, today, a lot of us here that were operating, we have lost a lot of staff going to Canada, going to other areas. We should actually do things that will return these people back and stay at home.
The federal government recently signed the Start-up Bill to law to enable businesses grow in the country. IBrandTV reporting for IBrandTV News.
The federal government has ordered telecommunications companies to reverse their recent 10% hike in calls and data prices. This decision means that telcos like MTN Nigeria and Airtel, who had initially increased the prices of their data bundles by about 10%, will now need to revert to their old prices. This was revealed by the Nigerian Communications Commission on Wednesday. The Commission said the initial consideration for 10% approval for tariff adjustments for different voice and data packages was in line with the mandates of the Commission as provided by the Nigerian Communications Act 2003 and other extant regulations and guidelines, as this was within the provisions of existing price floor and price cap as determined for the industry. However, it stated that its decision to allow telcos such as MTN Nigeria and Airtel to review the prices of some of their tariffs was taken after it critically and realistically reviewed and analyzed the operational environment and the current business climate in the nation. The NCC said that even though the tariff adjustment was provisionally approved by its management, its board has now overturned it. A statement signed by the Director Public Affairs, Ruben Mwaka, said the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Issa Ali Ibrahim Pantami, has maintained that his priority is to protect the citizens and ensure justice to all stakeholders involved. There has been call for a hands-on approach to tackle the expected food crisis caused by the spate of flooding across the country. Speaking on IBrandTV's Business Breakfast on Thursday, agricultural researcher and senior lecturer at University of Ibadan, Idris Badru, said efforts must be made by all stakeholders to cushion the crisis.
It's not something that is peculiar to a particular government in Nigeria, because here we were in 2012 when it happened. The same thing is happening over and it's happening again. I bet you probably in another 10 years, if we don't have a serious, government in place, something like this may still reoccur. What we need to do as a people is simply, when we hear, when we get information on things that are about to happen, there are risk assessments all over, from the universities, from the weather stations, from National Emergency Management Authority. What is expected is that the states that are in this that are risk prone, that are more risk prone than other states, are the local governments that have been highlighted by NEMA, that they are likely going to face that kind of challenge more than any other set of people, should act. Make sure that the drainages, I mean the openings of the canals, that they are not blocked. Because like you rightly pointed out, a lot of farmlands were submerged as a result of this flooding of the thing. And if anybody is telling you that it's this particular 1,000 of hectares, the person is lying, because do we have accurate data on the number of hectareages that were affected by the flood? We don't. We don't have accurate data. So, but they could estimate. But the reality is that we are definitely going to face a lot of farmers whose sources of livelihood have been washed away. They are going to, many of them may not be able to come back, may not be able to bounce back easily. Now, and this is going to affect the supply of food.
Central bank funding of $45.4 billion, not included in debt conversion, will take country's debt to about 35% of GDP. Nigeria's government plans to convert at least 20 trillion naira of loans taken from the central bank to 40-year bonds, the first time it is resorted to such a move as public finances come under pressure. These loans, which some have called printing of money by the Apex Bank, have not been added to the nation's debt. President Muhammadu Buhari approved the plan to convert the debt, which has mostly been taken once since he was elected in 2015, to plug spending shortfalls after revenue collapsed on lower oil prices and production. It's the most the government of Africa's biggest economy has borrowed from the bank. It is a one-time restructuring, repayable over 40 years with a moratorium. Patience Oniha, head of the country's debt management office, had said in a text message to Bloomberg. The timing of the conversion will be announced after the government seeks approval from the CAB. Chief Executive Officer at Nigeria Export Promotion Council, Isra Yakusak, has tasked the exporting communities and Nigerians on the need to embrace export as their only means of survival. Isra, who spoke at a media retreat for Commerce and Industry Correspondents Association of Nigeria, Abuja chapter, with the theme Diversification of the Economy, the role of NEPC, said the media has a critical role to play in not just promoting the country's activities and programs, but also creating awareness of the opportunities in the non-oil sector and sensitizing the general public. According to him, this mandate, as you are aware, is key to realizing the economic objectives of the present administration, which is targeted at diversifying the economy from a monolithic to a robust economy driven by the non-oil export sector. Again, the NEPC is poised to build and sustain a mutually beneficial relationship with the esteemed members of the Fourth Estate. Have been reliably informed that this relationship between NEPC and CICAN dates back several years ago. We'll take a commercial break now. We'll come back. We'll bring you more stories. Stay with us.